Ash, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today. I got a lot of questions about Summer Slaughter, the state of metal in general, lots of other stuff. But let's start with what everybody probably wants to hear about, which is sort of the reaction to the lineup announcement and kind of your take on that. So for anybody who didn't hear about it, you announced the lineup. Some people weren't so happy about it, and you had some words for them. So tell us where you're at on that.
Well, for the record, my words were only towards the Metal Sucks owners, which can be its own conversation to have whenever. Look, I think, total transparency, I think what happened with the announce is, for anyone that's seen Game of Thrones, the last episode got a lot of backlash because the second to last episode was so impressive and climactic and powerful and Dracarys and all of the, just the action and carnage and drama. So when people assumed that the finale was going to eclipse the second to last episode, and naturally that didn't happen. Had it been all one episode, it probably would have landed differently with all the fans. I think because the way we teased the comeback of the tour and showed all the old posters and all the lore around the tour and these old lineups, I think a lot of fans assumed because we were returning and everything's got to be bigger and better, post-COVID, that I think kind of everyone had in their minds there was going to be some, massive lineup with all these big legacy bands. And it's just not realistic to do tours like that in clubs anymore, unfortunately, because of how expensive it is to tour. But outside of that, yeah, I think everyone was just expecting it's going to be so larger than life. And I think I underestimated what the brand, the perception of the brand actually meant to people. Because to me, starting the tour was always about, still having, older acts on it, but it was all about elevating the future and helping, current younger bands get bigger.
I never saw Summer Slaughter as like a legacy tour to me. To me, it was the opposite of that. It's like there were always some, or usually, I guess, some like legacy bands on there. But to me, I took it as the focus was like on the sort of, at the time, younger bands that, you brought up on Sumerian. So when I saw this lineup, I was like, cool, this feels like Summer Slaughter to me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I mean, the one of the comments I've seen a lot is Chaos and Carnage is the real Summer Slaughter. And I think Chaos and Carnage has done a great job with their brand and the way they roll out that tour and package it and promote it. But the like kind of bittersweet irony in that is that the last Summer Slaughter before COVID took it away from us was three of the top bands from Chaos and Carnage. It was Cattle Decap, Carnifex, and Rivers, and we also had the Faceless on ours. And I think what kind of, to be honest, what hurts my feelings is seeing, the way that reaction is comparing the tours. It's like, well, I would venture to say, and I'm sure the bands would comment on themselves, that like, you look at all the years of Summer Slaughter and how we constantly put Cattle Decap and Carnifex on there and move them up the food chain.
That's a big part of the reason why they are where they are, I think.
Why they can headline Chaos and Carnage. Exactly. And so we, I look at bands like Veil of Maya and Brand of Sacrifice and Gideon too, and I stand by these bands as the top three acts for Summer Slaughter in 2024. Veil of Maya was opening on the Death by Decibels tour that we did after the first year of Slaughter. It was Vader, Malevolent Creation, Cattle Decap, Abigail Williams, Light the City, and Veil of Maya. They were the first band. That was like 2007. Like, they paid their dues, right? That was 17 years ago. Funny enough, Gideon's manager tour managed Death by Decibels. So the people that have put this together with me, Veil of Maya, same thing. Their manager is the same as Dying Fetus's manager. I was Dying Fetus's original booking agent. They, Summer Slaughter played a great part in their career elevation as well. And, truth be told, we looked at a more legacy, larger than life, big lineup when we first talked about bringing the tour back. And we were looking at Suicidal Tendencies, Dying Fetus, Biohazard, triple co-headline.
That sounds expensive.
Thank you. It's expensive, and there's
no, that's no shade on them. I mean, they're just at a point in their career where they get what they get.
Absolutely. And
probably tough to be financially viable.
it's tough to take a tour like that in 20 to 30 cities in a row for a myriad of reasons. All
Yeah.
three of those are iconic, timeless bands in their own right. And it got to the point where we were trying to see if it was even possible. Some bands couldn't do all the dates. Everyone's got plans in Europe in the summer. And I would just kind of had like a heart to heart with everyone involved in the tour. And we're like, dude, we created this tour to like help move forward, a
Yes.
new era of bands, even if we still, had Cannibal Corpse and certain older acts headline before. I was like, let's focus on something that is going to do that, and bands that we think have earned the right to be on the top of it. And then you look at, just it's all the histories on those old posters. I mean, the last tour we had, 19, Lorna Shore was on there and Brand of Sacrifice. They're the openers.
Mm-hmm.
You look at all these. I mean, 2007, when people told us Black Dahlia wasn't ready to be a headliner, we had Whitechapel as the first to 10 on that lineup. I mean, Slaughter to Prevail, Brand, Lorna, Whitechapel, Thyroid is Murder, like the who's who of modern,
Mm-hmm.
death star, whatever subgenre connected to, death metal you want to label music. Almost all of them have gone through the tour, if not multiple years. And so to me, it was always like a community-based thing where it's like, hey, let's champion these bands this year. So
Yeah.
to see like the backlash, I think some of it's because they assumed it's going to be Cannibal Corpse and that we're going to bring back Necrophagist and Meshuggah's going to be in LA and New York and
Yeah.
we're going to fucking reunite original Morbid Angel. Just, this thing in our heads is just really
If you want to pay $300 for a ticket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So those are the reality. I mean, I appreciate, Finn, that you're sharp on how all this stuff works. And again, the other thing, like bringing the tour back, I don't like need to bring the tour back. Like my life's fine. I
Right.
did it because I love the music and the culture and the scene of underground music and all the different colors of the metal hardcore rainbow, so to speak. Right. I love it all. I've always have. And, back in my day before social media, like all these bands toured together. There was so much more harmony between all the different genres of underground music. I mean, I remember Poison the Well, Candiria, Cryptopsy Origin Tour.
Yep. I remember that one.
And now, everyone wants to like be rusty gatekeepers and like try and like divide people, which is like the theme of the world today, divide, divide. And I see it in underground music. And honestly, like, sorry to get emotional, you guys, but like, it really makes me sad. Like, it makes me sad that it's toxic and it's fucking whack. And like,
Yeah.
If you're let down that we didn't have a bunch of older bands, I mean, I'm sorry if we let you down, but Veil of Maya, Brand of Sacrifice, Gideon, these bands have earned it. They're fucking great. Give them the opportunity to headline. People like Gideon's like the odd guys out. I'm like, look at Hatebreed. Look at how many death metal bands opened for Hatebreed. They were a straight up hardcore band and they crossed over. And I think Gideon can do the same thing. I think the lineup we put together, the other thing that people, I think kind of lose track as if we have like this crystal ball of every single band ever to choose from. All these bands are going to tour. And this is when I started the tour, was the same kind of logic. Like instead of having to go to 3 different shows, 3 different days, 3 different ticket prices, 3 different parking, 3 different, I have to eat out that night. We put it all together to make it a better experience for fans, like a better value. And yeah, I get it. It's all day. It's in a club. You're not at a beach resort. But the other thing I think that, just to get a little sociological on it, like part of the magic of when we started the tour too, before there was Instagram and all these different loud social media platforms, like you would go and you would spend all day at it and meeting people. You're waiting in line for the bathroom to get a drink, to get something to eat in between bands. And you just meet people. And like, I don't know, like you guys ever seen The Breakfast Club? Sometimes it's nice to meet someone that doesn't have the exact same taste as you.
But that's what we want. We want to go to a show and every band sounds exactly the same. And everybody there shares our exact opinions. It's like we just want everything to be a mirror. And I don't get it. I loved going to shows and there'd be like a ska band, a pop punk band, a death metal band, and a hardcore band.
That's it, man. I mean, that's the beauty of just, non-mainstream music in general. And the other thing too, like everyone can act like they came out the womb and they were listening to, the first Necrophagist album, but we have all found our own paths to the most extreme underground, unique subgenres of music through those gateway bands. And so that's part of the magic too, is like there's different music out there. Everyone has their own way to discover stuff. And so the purpose of the tour was always to just throw like a really fun all-day show that doesn't have all the same bands.
Yeah.
And I think now, yeah, it definitely feels like there's just more like division in the subgenres of metal. And the other thing is, like, the truth be told, this new era of bands, which people talk shit about all these. I mean, from the start of modern deathcore, I still think Fetus and Suffo started like, deathcore in the sense of what it is, nuts
Yeah.
and bolts musically. But like, dude, I was booking Suicide Silence, Job for a Cowboy. I was the first agent for all those bands. Everyone talked shit. No one
Yep.
wanted to take them out.
Yep.
Everyone said this stuff wouldn't last.
Yep.
Part of the reason I doubled down on the young bands, and yeah, we went more core instead of like true extreme cred metal or whatever you want to call it, is because of how big this is now. And to hopefully give these bands the opportunity to have those numbers to elevate their career. I mean, Lorna Shore and Slaughter to Prevail are bigger than the biggest legacy death metal bands
For
right
sure.
now.
No
Present day,
question.
it's just
Yeah.
not political. It's not anything. It's just
Just is
that's
what it
just the
is.
time we're living in. Um, so anyway, like I think the backlash was a combination of maybe we didn't realize the expectations we were setting by posting old posters. And then, yeah, I mean, maybe people just see Veil of Maya and Brand of Sacrifice as support acts, but Veil just did a sold out headliner. They were doing 1,000 tickets in a number of different cities. I think Brand of Sacrifice has tons of momentum, incredible live show, front man, all of it. And Gideon just did the same thing. All those bands.
I
So
love that most recent Gideon album. It's so good.
yeah, I'm a big fan. So, I think it's going to be a really fun show, but, people love to hate on shit. That's the new
Yeah.
bandwagon. That's
Yep.
the new, yeah, talk shit on the internet. Ha ha ha. And like, hey man, this is to say to everyone talking about Summer Slaughter, if you got something better to do that day, go do that.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Cooler
that's
going
my take,
on.
is like, if you think the lineup sucks, that's cool. You're entitled to your opinion. Just don't go.
Hmm.
I,
I
it
will
seems very
say,
simple.
just to be completely self-aware about it, the old saying, like, what's in a name? If it was called All Stars, people would be like, this is the fucking heaviest, sickest All Stars ever.
Yeah.
But because it's Summer
Yeah.
Slaughter, I think they have an unobtainable picture in their head of what this tour should be post COVID, which I wish it was different. It's so fucking expensive for bands to tour now.
Yeah.
Everything, gas, crew, bandwagons, every element of tour. And there's only so high of a ticket and so many people you can put in these venues. So I think we
Yeah.
made a great lineup, and I think the tour is going to crush. And we're seeing the cities that I think, are most synonymous with like the history of this genre are doing really good. They're actually outselling other ones. The places that, I guess kind of get it more than others, they're doing awesome. So I'm optimistic, and I think the bands are going to have a fucking party. And I hope, whether you love the lineup, hate the lineup, think it's mid, whatever it is, go see who you might meet at the show. Like, look at it as a fucking social thing.
I would go to literally any show when I was, whatever, younger. I didn't care whether I liked the band or not. Like, if it was anything sort of remotely related to like metal or hardcore punk, I would go just to hang out.
Well, I love you said that, because I was getting nostalgic looking at your backdrop. And before like MySpace, which was obviously before Facebook, but before there was social media, if you went to an underground music show, whether it was death metal, metalcore, hardcore, punk, scream, emo was underground, like it was kind of like it was our own secret society. It was like,
Yeah.
hey, you know about this too? Because you had to get the flyer or have someone tell you about it or see the poster at the record store to know about it. So it was so much more communal. And again, not to sound like, the old uncle at the barbecue, but like people now are more connected than ever because
Yeah.
of social media, but they're also more lonely. Like I talk to a lot of young people, and our world of music, all the different shades of underground music, it's about community and meeting people and supporting stuff, even if you're not going to listen to it all day, but it's still sending the same moment to culture, is that, yeah, this is not the mainstream. This is
And like,
not
I still
corporate.
want a band to be successful, even if I don't like them. I don't want them to fail. Like, I want them to have a great career. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's not a part of me where I'm like rooting for something to fail just because I don't enjoy the way it sounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said, man. It's a weird time, but I hope that, you know, people remember like all the different subgenres of underground music. Like, not to get all kumbaya on us, but like we're supposed to like support each other because we're all not corporate mainstream machine. Like this is all underground.
I was kind of, I guess the part that I was surprised about with sort of this reaction to the lineup is maybe it's because I associate Summer Slaughter with you and I associate you with Sumerian. And like, I think I was talking about this with my wife last night, she loved all that early Sumerian stuff too. Like, and I'll just use this opportunity to kiss your ass, but I don't know if people realize how much you personally did to establish basically everything we think of as like what like modern metal is now. Like, I don't know if people realize how like instrumental Sumerian was in all the other stuff you did. Like, all that early Sumerian shit was so groundbreaking. Like, nobody else was doing more for it than you were. And so to me, like, that's what I always thought of Summer Slaughter as. Does that make sense?
I appreciate that. That was the spirit of it, man. Like that's what's so darkly humorous to me about all these kids in the comms. Like, this isn't even deathcore and this is that. I'm like, dude,
You're telling me what it, like,
just as an agent, like even outside of the Sumerian stuff, all
yeah.
those bands, All Shall Perish, Job for a Cowboy, Animosity, Suicide Silences, Blood Runs Black, you know, picking up necrophages at the airport in a van, like all of it. I was there. And so that on a human level, all of you mean people in the comments, I want you to know I brought this tour back, not because I need the money, not because I need to be at my computer more than, my 2-year-old son hanging out with my family. I did it because I truly love and want to give back to the world of music that I've been fortunate and privileged to have a fantastic career in. And I was excited to give it to younger bands and to use the Summer Slaughter brand to curate a lineup of bands that have members under the age of 50 and 40 and
Yeah.
some 30. This was all by design. So yeah, and so the deathcore thing, I'm like, you think like all these bands you guys look at, like, first off,
Where do you think they came from?
yeah, and everyone's like, why did they put Job for a Cowboy on it? Like, you didn't think I thought about that?
Yeah.
It's one of the first phone calls. They're not touring this year. It's
Yeah.
just not possible. And mind you, Job for a Cowboy, the irony with that band, they were Entombment of a Machine. They were the Kings. It was Job for a Cowboy and Suicide Silence. Those were the Twin Towers. That was Metallica and Guns N' Roses, right? Those were the two biggest. And when Job for a Cowboy got repositioned to be more cred, to be more, legitimate
Real
death
metal.
metal,
Yeah.
fucked their whole career up.
Yep.
Be the first to say it. They didn't get embraced by that. It's all the separatism, the elitism, the rusty gatekeeping. And now they've kind of had a second life after time has gone by. And now both sides of the fence
But
appreciate.
it took 20 years.
Dude, it took them fucking not trying to play music for a living anymore.
Which sucks. That's how sad is that?
And a big reason, and this is to me on an industry level and also on like a cultural community level, the biggest problem with heavy music, specifically metal, they don't like it when the young band gets put over, like we say in the wrestling business. Yep. They don't like the Ultimate Warrior moment, pass the torch, Hogan's down, someone else has the belt. They don't fucking like it. In pop music, they love young people. Yep. When Job for a Cowboy was selling all the shirts at Hot Topic and they were selling all the records, fuck that band. It is why, up until now, we're finally seeing the torch be passed at the top line of all the big festivals. We got Sleep Token, Bad Omens, Bring Me, Falling in Reverse, Gojira on the more metal side.
Yeah, but even Bring Me the Horizon and they're 20 years old, right? Falling in Reverse, Ronnie's been making music for 20 years. And that's not putting them down. It's just like, it's unfortunate that that's how long it takes to put someone over sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at Rolling Loud and there's people headlining that have been making music for 3 years. And maybe they have a separate problem there, is that person's probably not going to be around in another 3 years. So, that's another conversation. But you know more about this than I do, but it seems to me that there's like a real sort of problem with, let's call it succession in the metal world of like, you know, the most of the bands headlining these big festivals are not young guys. They're not going to be around forever. Is there someone who can drop in and replace them tomorrow? And I don't know that there is, but you would know better than I do.
Yeah, it's been really challenging ever since like MTV went away, where there was one, you know, real gatekeeper culturally to discover music. Just became so much harder to reach that critical mass
Yeah.
of eyes and ears at once for any band, but especially for heavy metal. But now that's finally changing because of social media, and everyone's connected, even just on a phone, texting. You can spread something really fast. So I think we're going to finally see um, we're finally going to see a newer generation. And again, like you said, a lot of these bands that are the new ones, they're also like in their 40s already.
Right.
But I think we're finally going to see that. But it does take the promoters, the industry, the record labels, and most importantly, the fans.
The fans
Say,
yeah.
hey, we're gonna let someone else be at the top of this thing, because
I
there's
mean,
only
the
so
fans are
many
the
more
boss.
reunions.
You can't make them buy a ticket they don't want to buy.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
mean, it's, you know, I don't know, man. It starts and ends with the music. You got to have great songs that resonate with a lot of people to get there. But I've always prided my career on the label side, on the booking and promoting side, of trying to champion the future of the genres and help find like new, you know, subgenres and give them their moment. So that was the whole purpose of Summer Slaughter from the jump. People didn't think Necrophage. Dude, everyone said I was insane. You're like, who the fuck is this Necrophage band? Willow Tip Records, what? Relapse?
right.
You know, there's no way they can play House of Blues and all this shit. And then it just kind of went from there. And then we started doing the more, I guess, traditional headliners when we had, you know, Cannibal Corpse a couple of years. But the other funny one is Devastation on the Nation, which is another great tour. But everyone's like, that's the real Summer Slaughter. And again, man, I don't like just repeating history, especially if it's
Yeah.
not as momentous as that moment. So, like, what I say to that, you know, Morbid Angel, dude, we had Morbid Angel headline Summer Slaughter when David Vincent went back to the band. We had Suffocation when Frank Mullen was singing. Like, let's do something
Do you
new.
want to just do
Sorry,
the
I'm a
same
bad guy, but
tour? Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
So, you
But
know,
it seems like that is what a lot of people want. Like, I want to go see the same
weird.
show I saw last year, which, I mean, you're allowed to want what you want, but I don't know. I would rather see something different.
I, you know, not to draw everything to pro wrestling, but like when you like a band or you like a wrestler and or even an athlete and they make it to the finals or they make it to the main event and you get to see them with all the production and all eyes on them, as a music fan, I loved watching the growth of the band.
Yeah.
I love when I finally got to go, oh shit, they're playing last. What are they going to do production wise? Are they going to keep my attention for a full hour? Like, how much harder are they going to bring it on stage? I stand by these bands. If all of you Summer Slaughter, ledge jumpers who aren't really sure, you know, if you think it's worth, sorry, I got spam call. If you're not sure it's worth your time, I think these bands. Did I just get disconnected?
No, you're good.
Okay. Screen went off. I stand by these bands we put at the top. And if you go to the show and you're like Veil of Maya, Brand of Sacrifice, and Gideon didn't make me feel like I got my money's worth, fucking email me, dude. I'll PayPal you the fucking money back. They're gonna deliver, man. It's their time.
There's your Chael Sonnen promo right there.
Yeah. I really do. I stand by the bill, and I understand why people are mad, mainly because I think they just thought it was going to be quote unquote bigger, older bands. But there's only so many ways you can put 10 bands in a venue like that, especially now after the pandemic.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, why did it go on hiatus in the first place? Because it was before COVID shut everything down, right? Like the last one was 2019 and then
2019 and then 2020 we were gonna like try and just find, you know, a legacy death metal band that hadn't done it before. So we were talking about like Deicide.
Okay, so you were gonna do one in 2020. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna do in 2020. Pandemic hits. That takes what, like 3 years?
Right.
And then truthfully, 23 didn't happen because I had people telling me that it wasn't possible to do the tour anymore because of the nature of how expensive it is to put that many bands together and all these, and how expensive it is to tour now. Um, which made, again, that's why it's so upsetting to see the backlash from certain, haters on the internet, is that like what we went through to try and give them a fun show for a fair, ticket. It's like, I'm sorry we couldn't assemble, a bunch of really expensive bands to play
Right.
size venue, but I don't think anyone's going to be assembling that,
I mean, people always say they want Warped Tour to come back. Again, you'd know better than I do. It seems like there's no way that could possibly happen now unless you want that ticket to be 5 times what it was. To have like that many bands play for $40, on 50 dates, that seems impossible now.
I think it would have the same problem on social media. Summer Slaughter. People go, "This is Warped Tour. We're supposed to have all these huge
Right,
bands."
right, right.
Like,
Blink 182 and All Time Low and blah blah blah.
there's not enough dollars to go around anymore to assemble that many bands that are at a certain ilk size.
Yeah.
It's just, maybe that'll change, but um, yeah, it's just a different time. But I think the tour is going to do great, and if nothing else, everybody knows about it. I mean, that's, I always say, if no one's hating, then you're not making an impact. So I'd rather be people talking about it and feeling like this isn't as fucking epic as it should be than like, oh, I didn't know that tour was back,
Totally, totally. I mean, and it's always the case that for every loud person bitching in the comments, there's 20 other normal, sane people that are just watching and observing and saying nothing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned sort of Lorna Shore and the state of deathcore and stuff. Um, Anybody that's been paying attention, it's very obvious that like deathcore, probably starting in 21 or whatever, came back with To the Hellfire, and it's bigger now, I think, than it ever was. And I've been really shocked to see such extreme music be so popular again with people that were sort of not involved with the genre. I mean, you see all these like, TikTok girls and stuff into this shit. Kind of reminds me of, scene girls and stuff being into Suicide Silence and Job for a Cowboy at the peak of it. What's your take on sort of where deathcore is at now and why all this is happening?
I am blown away that 20 plus years after, you know, booking Suicide Silence and Job for a Cowboy and Animosity and all these bands, that it's as big as it is. It honestly, it's very inspiring, and I think it's very vindicating for the bands, because I was like, the industry considered me like the pioneer of this subgenre, and I had all these bands and no one took it seriously, no one thought it had any longevity. And yeah, it's bigger. Slaughter to Prevail, Lorna Shore, these bands are bigger than it ever was when it first came out, when I was still an agent. And that's a combination of things, but it's fucking inspiring and it's awesome. And yeah, it's very eye-opening that in 2024, even the bands, I mean, all, what else it does? It shows you how young they were.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that they were like that young starting out, and they're still youthful now. Like I feel like
Right.
none of these deathcore bands, none of them are old men.
Right.
Like they're all still, in heavy metal years, they're still very young,
Right.
So it's
I was
awesome,
watching an
man.
Animosity video the other day, and they were like children. It was crazy
Yeah.
and
I mean,
so good. I'm like, man, imagine being that fucking good when you're like 17 years old. This is wild.
dude, that's the other thing that trips me out about just, being at this stage in my life now and looking at kids that are teenagers and even younger uh on social media with music. Like the playing is just I mean, it's just constantly getting more and more elevated. And what's really inspiring too is seeing like how much females in metal
Mm-hmm.
have just completely elevated as musicians on the technical side. Um, that was very, very rare.
Yeah.
Like just talking about deathcore, like when all of these bands were breaking in like the mid 2000s and kind of changing the face of modern like heavy music, it was rare to see girls online that could really bring it at that level. And now it's like all
Tons of
over the
them.
place. It's
Yeah.
fucking awesome, you know? Like I hope all those fathers are very proud that their daughters are literally like breaking boundaries, stereotypes, moving culture and music forward. It's really fucking cool. So, you know, these are all reasons why I wanted to bring the tour back. I just thought it was going to be fun. I was like, let me help out some of these bands and give fans a show that they can see in one day instead of 3 different days, you know?
Yeah. So is this something that you want to keep doing, or what are your thoughts on sort of the future of the tour?
You know, I don't see why we would stop. I mean, if this if if this year was just some complete disaster, which I can already see like from ticket sales, that's not going to be the case. But even if it was, I don't know, man. Like there were up years and down years of any tour. Um, I don't think so. If anything, I would pass the torch to like younger agents and promoters and say, hey, you guys, you know, curate it and take it on. But clearly, from the launch of the comeback,
People
people,
care.
yeah, they care about the brand, man. I'm kind of like humbled by how much people, you know, take the brand so to heart. So I mean, again, that's what's bittersweet about even all the backlash is that many people took the time to speak their mind, for better or for worse. They're engaged,
Yeah.
but I think it's gonna be a great summer.
I think it would be cool, just from a sort of helping the scene perspective to continue to focus on sort of newer blood. But I also think just from a commercial perspective, that probably is like a better opportunity. I mean, these bands are selling more tickets than I would have ever imagined, and so it seems like they need a home, and what better place for it to be than this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're spot on. You know, in hindsight, if I would have preemptively told everyone, hey, it's going to be younger, you know, Cannibal Corpse is not going to be there. They're touring with them on Mars. Like maybe I could have, you know, and
I
then
doubt
again,
it. I doubt it.
probably not. And then we had
Yeah.
to move the thing 2 days because of another conflict. So it was just we're waiting, and then it was like, Bill of mine, I'll bring a sacrifice. Fuck these bands, man. Fuck you. Um, and yeah, and then the chaos and carnage parts really just bittersweet because like we gave them those top 3 bands when the last time we did the tour. Um, so yeah, we if you look throughout the years, man, the support bands they move up and they move up, and it's Vale and Brand's turn,
Yep.
and you know they're going to prove it when the spotlights are on them.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or I feel like we kind of covered the tour?
Yeah, dude, I think that's it. Like again, your old flyers just bring me back to a place where I hope because the world is so divisive right now. You know, if I can leave fans, if I die in a plane crash tonight flying back west, if there's anything I can leave from my time in metal and hardcore is that regardless of the subgenres and what bands you think are cool and what bands are lame, when you go to these shows, it's a communal like ceremony. It's people gathering to celebrate music that mainstream corporate culture is not giving you. And to me, that's a very special, sacred thing that felt more sacred prior to social media because the only way to find out was the flyer or word of mouth. So regardless of what genres you like the most, it's a community, man. Like lift each other up and know that like we're all in it together, that like we're on the underground and it's fucking awesome. And we're lucky. You know, I tell everyone too, like, go watch the movie Swing Kids. Look what happens when governments ban certain styles of music and dance. Like modern mosh is like its own kind of like magical swing kid moment. I remember booking shows as a DIY promoter in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and just finding venues that would allow
Yep.
hardcore dancing or even just like push moshing was
Yeah.
its own thing, you know? So I just think we're really fucking lucky to have as much to choose from as possible. And that's been one of the biggest things people have hit me up from all over the world, because I think they see like all the bullying towards the tour. And they're just like, do these American kids have any idea how fucking lucky they are to like even get this tour? Like people would be like, this thing would have crushed it in other parts of the world out of the gates. But
Yep.
in the US, we get every tour. This is the number one music market for most genres all around the world. Everyone's focused on the US. So here, like, we're blessed to be American, but we get to choose from everything. So there's a sense of entitlement.
Yep.
We're entitled to the biggest Summer Slaughter ever because you guys came back on my time. So what the fuck? This should be bigger than everything you've ever done. And we're lucky, man. We're fucking lucky. It's a privilege to be able to go to a metal or hardcore show, especially more than once a month, much less once a week. So I'm grateful that I still get to do this, and I'm grateful for all the fans that are supporting the tour and all the bands that are just already showing camaraderie. We're going to do like collab songs and different things to help celebrate the lineup and going on tour this summer. So I'm excited to see how it all ends up.
Cool. I'm excited too, and I appreciate you bringing it back.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much, Finn. And thanks for everything you do for the scene and all your commentary and fun videos. I find it very, very amusing and sometimes really educational.
I appreciate it.